So it's 12:03. We have some time together. I know some of you have to leave early. So I just want you to know that if you're okay with it, my name is Jimena Gallardo. If you're okay with it, I want this session to be divided sort of into two parts. One where we discuss, your questions, right? And all of the things that worry you about this new technology. And then in the second part, we can start kind of building together some solutions. Obviously, if it's being recorded, then all you have to do is go to that second part if that's what really interests you, right? And get to that moment, right? So if you just came in, I have shared in the chat two one little tiny survey and an Etherpad with asking you specific questions to share a specific question with us, so we can start with those, right? We can start with what interests you, and I'm going to share the Etherpad. So give me a second so we can take a look at what you guys are thinking about right now. Okay. Here we go. Okay.
People are still joining.
So we're just going to take a few minutes to look at these questions, right? And see where we want to start, with what question we want to start, and then we will try to get to all of them. Some of you may have similar concerns, so that's a good thing.
Wow.
So if you just joined us, we are filling out some forms very quickly to get us started, to have an idea of what people want to talk about today. It might help you to know that I've been studying this since December of 2022, so I have a lot of information if you want information, but I think that the kinds of things I don't know at all is how this impacts your specific discipline. So I'm really interested in hearing from you as to how you see, what are you worried about, and how do you see, what can we do moving forward? I think this is more of a global conversation rather than just me telling you things. But if at any point you want me to tell you things, I can tell you things. I can tell you many things. For many hours, I can talk about this. No problem, sadly. Cool. So Ian and I have similar goals. Okay, daunting. Okay. Okay. Is this it? Or are we still, some of you, oh, we're going there. Okay. Okay, I think that's is that it? Is that all the questions that we have, guys? So, looking at the questions that we have, how about we start with Sigmund, can you talk a little bit about what do you mean by fraud? So Sigmund, I'm going to share again. Let's start with this idea, because I think that You know, one of the early thoughts that we all had about generative AI had to do with, um, you know, ghostwriting, or some people call it plagiarizing. I think that Sigmund has a really wonderful word for it here, fraud, right? So Sigmund's question is, what can we do to prevent fraud using AI and help students protect themselves against the risk of fraud? Also, how can students and faculty use AI together in fun and productive ways, for example, through clear citation and attribution without risk of naive fraud or dependence, right? So Sigmund, when you say fraud, what do you mean? How do you see this technology, as being good for fraud?
I
Tell me
guess
a little
like
more.
last semester, I taught an online class and I had students who, would drop like a low stakes in-class writing prompt in the chat,
Mhm.
and people would, basically send it to an AI and then give me back what the AI said, And then, sometimes the whole essays would come in and it would have that weird generic mechanical formulaic look about it, and they wouldn't be able to answer questions about their own writing. So it just, it really unnerved me, and I had no idea what to do with it, and that's part of the reason why, I figured we better be thinking about it because
Right.
because students can use it so easily.
So have more of you had this happen in your classes, or is it just a segment thing, or have you had students literally just, grab one of your questions and answer with the bot? Anyone?
We have had in ESL
Mm-hmm.
some students just producing wonderful paragraphs, and you know that it's not theirs.
Right.
But, I mean, it's amazing. So yeah, that's a problem. That's what I want to. That's why I'm here.
So you're concerned about basically cheating. Oh, and I see Marissa. Hello, Marissa.
Cheating, yes,
Tell us.
and the
What's
students not trying to write on their own,
right?
just directly copying from AI. Yeah.
Okay. So Marissa, what's your experience?
Yeah, so I'm seeing this super weird thing right now. I'm teaching an online async 102, and there's a beautiful essay that gets produced, and there's a paragraph that says, in conclusion, blah, blah, blah. And then after the concluding paragraph, I've seen this in multiple papers, after the concluding paragraph, there's 4 more paragraphs that are kind of like the skeleton of the paper that was written. So I suspect that students are using prompts to generate some sort of outline and then really fluffing out the outline and doing it effectively in some cases, but then forgetting that a conclusion should actually be a conclusion. And then there's like this mini skeletal essay at the end of it. I've confronted several students about it and asked them to show me evidence that a draft is theirs, and I get some haphazard handwritten notes. And because there are no policies at CUNY specifically about AI, I can't do anything other than say, okay, thank you for showing me that this is your essay, because I don't have the legal recourse to say, this has come back as 99% AI generated on 4 different AI generator checkers. So I'm here because I'd really like to know what the long game is for the institution and for CUNY in developing policies around AI usage in classes, because I'm not opposed to using AI in various ways. I am just opposed to it as the primary generator of student text.
Okay, Vera?
Yeah, actually, you can do something about it. I mean, this is also falls under plagiarism because basically they're sending in something about something that another student wrote, but it's so hard to prove. I
Right.
mean, if it comes back as if you can show it that was written by AI, you can certainly, do a sanction and file a report. I think it's included in the academic violation, integrity violation.
One thing that we talked about in the English department at some point in one of the department meetings is that if you think about it, what the students are doing is actually they're passing in this case, a machine's writing as their own writing. So it actually falls under ghostwriting, which is a type of cheating, right? So it's not so much, I mean, it's not that it's not plagiarism, because of course, all of the ideas have been from someone else that were remixed by the bot. But in a strange way, the bot is doing like a novel type of writing. So it's more like they're using the machine to ghostwrite the papers. And that is cheating. You know, like if they bought the paper, that would be cheating. So we do have recourse to punish them if that's where we would like to go. So then my next question is, do we want to go there? Is that what we should be doing about these, you know, about the fraud? Because I think that Sigma's question is really more about like, how do we steer them away from doing this rather than punish them? But maybe some of you think we should, you know, the punishment should be there. We should write something. We should have something on our syllabi. I don't know. Erica?
Good afternoon, everyone. Yes, I don't think we should consider punishing students, but just providing clear guidance on how to properly use the AI and what the expectations are when using it and when. So providing that guidance, some guidance in the positive, I think would be helpful.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else? Alice, tell us.
What I've done is give them the guidelines and tell them how to use it and have discussion around plagiarism. I'm not sure if we could totally walk away from not telling them about it, because there were always students before AI who were always finding ways of cheating.
Right.
So, and the University of Chicago, there are some universities that have a statement on, you know, what that you could use it, how much you could use, and how to cite your source. So that's what I've given my student. And I've seen some response to some of my prompts where they're just repeating stuff, which without answering a question. It just means that I have to spend a little bit more time reading stuff much closer, much closely. But, you know, that's my position.
Thanks. Dear? We can hear you, babe.
Oh, sorry about this.
No
Yeah,
worries.
those students who use it, I give very specific assignments, and you know that they're missing the point when they use AI, so they get a low grade. I think in the future, and this was my experience in the past, I think we should just to preempt this, teach them how to really evaluate what's bad about AI and what AI can do well and what it cannot do well. And I think we just have to, we can't get around to teaching them AI to know how to not use it in a way that kind of gives them a bad grade. So that's what I would like to learn here.
Okay. Lucy?
Yeah, just building what people have said, like just the difference between plagiarism or ghostwriting. I feel personally that I don't quite know what AI is. Like, I feel like I need to understand what it is. I really need to really break it down. It seems like a huge learning curve for me. So before we get into penalizing or not penalizing, like what actually us as a campus, what do we understand by AI? What are the benefits? What are the dangers of it, and how do we want to present it to our students? So there's a I don't know, there's like a foundation that I need, and I think maybe other people need before we get into those questions of penalizing or whatever.
I think that's a great point. And some of you who are here know that the English department, we've been working really hard at putting together some training that we're going to give to the department on, you know, basically critical AI literacy so that people can make decisions about how they want to present this to their students in class. And obviously, if it's successful, we can, share that with the, college or I don't know. We need to talk about what are we going to do in terms of institutional leadership, but that's coming. That's coming. In the meantime, Hugo, what do you want to say? Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
So,
Make it
instead of
easy.
trying to answer the question of how can we prevent fraud, maybe what we should be asking the question is, what should we consider coming up with as new learning, instructional and performance outcomes? Maybe turning in a 20-page research paper is no longer what a student would need to do to pass an English class. Maybe they got to do something else. I mean, I tried having people read their papers in class, and all I found out was that people are more afraid of speaking in public than they are of writing badly. But I think that, this is an opportunity for us to rethink education as a whole. And AI has just kind of triggered that. So I think that's what we need to think. And I mean, I could do a much deeper dive on this, and people aren't going to like it. But I think that's what we need to think about it. We're going to have to rewrite all these courses and figure out what we want from students, and stop looking at AI as something that we have to defeat and keep people away from, and figure out how it can be used as a tool to become, to learn whatever it is that we want them to learn in our classes. But if you basically want a kid to learn how to write from scratch, then you're just going to have to lock them in a room with, some sort of, writing device and access to whatever limited research you want to give them. And then you could prove that. But is that what we want? Is that what I think we really need to figure this out. And because we're just attacking a symptom of a problem, and it's a bigger issue. We need to rethink education from the ground up.
So Alice, I see you. Give me 1 second. I'm just going to say something connected to what Hugh was saying. So it is true, guys, that these tools are going to become more and more and more ubiquitous. People have phones, they have the tools. They are obviously still internet based. So you have to have the internet to have them. So that's something that's very basic that we need to consider as we move forward, in our teaching. If you don't have the internet, you don't have access to these tools yet. I mean, at this point, right? Eventually, at some point, we will have these tools in our phones, as in like in the hardware of our phones, but that's not happening yet. For the moment, they're all web-based. So if they don't have the web, they don't have the tools. But then, of course, the world is so web-based these days that it's, kind of difficult for us and them not to have the web. So Alice, what did you want to say?
I wanted to agree with Hugo, but also to say that the AI is already in your Google search on your phone.
Yep.
And the last conference I attended a few weeks ago, the discussion was that some companies, depending on what it is, expect that their employees know how to use it.
Mm-hmm.
AI. So if we're not teaching them about it, then they are not going to be prepared for certain jobs. And, to piggyback on what Hugo said, I talked about to my students yesterday in class, I said, you have a presentation. And one student said, how many points is it? Because I would rather lose those points as opposed to getting up in the class and present. Some of them are terrified at the idea of presenting any kind of work than learning about AI and using it. But it's something I think that it's a part of the technological revolution that we're experiencing right now. And what COVID-19 did was accelerate this technological revolution because we all had to be on Zoom for our classes. So that's my spiel.
Thank you. Well, one of the important issues that we need to think about in terms of how much we want to use it in the classroom is just think about this. So how do you become an expert? How does anybody become an expert? What are the steps to becoming an expert on something, right? And part of it requires being an amateur, being an apprentice, and failing, and learning the very basic steps so that you can move on to the next level, and then the next level, and the next level. What these tools are offering at the moment is the replacement of those first level steps, right? They can write the paper for you. They can, not very well, but they can, they can respond to that prompt that Sigmund put, online, they all have to respond to. And so by replacing that, they're not allowing for the learner to actually go through the motion of trying to figure out the thing on their own. So that's a big thing. That is a big thing in terms of learning, because what we're seeing is that, like if you're an expert, these tools are fantastic. These tools are really, really good for people who know what they're doing, because you can check them. You can, they will, as they say, there will be your co-pilot, your assistant, right? They can augment your, the quality of your work. But if you're a beginner, right, what they're doing is they're actually replacing something that you should be doing yourself so that you get better at it, so that then you can become the expert that maybe can use the tool, right? And that to me is the key issue that I'm worried about, right? Is like, how in my classes do I at the same time simultaneously do what you guys are saying, which is introduce this technology to my students so that they're savvy enough so that they are not left behind, because that's my fear. What I don't sleep at night thinking that my students are going to be left behind yet again, right? So trying to help them understand how this technology works so that they're not left behind, but at the same time explaining to them that they need to do the work themselves, because they cannot truly use the tool correctly if they don't know how the know-how first, right? So for me, the balance in my classroom has to be, okay, here's how you use them, but also you need to know these things before you use them or while you're using them, because otherwise it's futile. You will not know if the bot is lying or it's not lying, because as you know, the bots make up stuff all the time. So how do you know that your answer is correct? You cannot know if you don't know. I don't know if I'm making any sense here. No, Hugo's like, no, you don't making any sense. This is really important. We are poised at a moment where AI could replace the beginning steps of learning, so that it's harder. I mean, maybe we can find a way, and this is what Hugo was saying, maybe we can find a way, maybe we don't need those first steps. I don't know, is writing that necessary? Writing is a construct. We all naturally speak, but maybe writing, we should give it up, and just have the bots write for us. I don't know, right? But I do know that the way that we learn right now is that we move from being, novices to becoming experts. And the way to do that is by slowly, incrementally, making mistakes, whatever, trying again, imitating masters, blah, 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 blah. And the bots right now can do that. They can do the very basic steps of it all. So Alex, tell me, Hugo, did you want to say something, or you just have your hand up?
Hugo's making me dizzy, like big time.
All right, I left it up.
No worries. I just want to do.
I'll take
Alex.
it down.
Yeah, Alex, tell
But yeah,
us.
he seriously makes me dizzy. But no, Jimena, I think I know you probably were only kidding. Writing is super important. And I
Oh, I'm
think
not
that,
kidding. I'm actually like Alexandra, after all that I've read, I don't know if I'm kidding anymore.
well,
Seriously.
maybe a vacation will for you will help you change your mind. So okay, so yeah, for me, I think of course writing is super important because that's really that's gonna be your bread and butter ultimately. And I think the whole thing with AI is that no one should get too stressed about it because as some of us are saying in the zone, some of it's been with us, and there are so many different lanes of AI. Like there's AI in the arts, in the movies, in art. So I think it's probably important to identify that also for students because some of it they do understand. And I always mention that movie Megan, which did phenomenally, and it's like an AI doll, right, running around. So I think that, you know, as academics and as scholars, is that we need to be calm about it and try to make sense of it. And I really appreciate all of you for putting this together because this is the beginnings of it. We started to do that in our own department. And I think the more that we know, the better that we'll be able to help our students navigate, you know, this new world. And I know, Jimena, you were at the forefront for the college with also our colleague Anne for Wikipedia. And at the time that was also like scary and we didn't know what was that about and was it evil and so on. And now look where it is. So I think that, you know, it's new and it's out there, but I think that, you know, as I'm saying, as academics and as scholars, we shouldn't figure it out. And I'm sure that we'll all do a really good job doing that. And listen to our students because some of them, as we're talking, are using it and know more about it than we do. So we actually can learn from them too. And that's really it.
Thanks. In a little bit, I'm going to share a couple of documents with you that may help you because I know that some of you just want some like basic things. So I will share some documentation. Obviously, I'm going to send it also by email, etc. But so you can take a look at it. But I think that we're moving, and Lucy, I know you're coming next. We're moving towards an agreement here about that we don't think punishment is the right option at this moment. We really want to learn how to use these tools. What are they? As Lucy said, what are they, and can they be used in the classroom, and so on and so forth. I don't know if you all agree, but that seems to be for me to be where this conversation is going. So Lucy, tell us. Sorry, me.
I really appreciate Alexandra's comments. And just to give people an image, I went yesterday to a barn museum at an old inn upstate, and it was filled with the implements that were necessary to run an inn in the 1800s. Everything from switchboards to butter churns to sleighs. And I think in some ways we're at a moment where there might be a museum of writing, but that the tools we use might no longer be effective, or the tasks might really change. And I think it's true that it's daunting, but it's also really interesting. And we don't quite know yet what we're going to end up with. And so I just wanted to add that image.
Cool. Hugo, you have stopped. Well, your hand is up.
I just wanted to say I'm trying to get in on another way here, but I'm gonna have to go anyway because I got to do a tour at 1. You know, I appreciate it that everybody loves writing because we all learned how to do it, and we love reading and all this kind of stuff. But when people start talking like that, it reminds me of like that scene in Animal House where the parade goes crazy and Kevin Bacon is walking around saying like, "Everybody relax, all is well." And the truth is we're on the Titanic, gang. And so, I mean, look, I think writing is important. It's a great way to communicate. Interestingly, on the pyramid of learning, when people read things that are written, they retain a small percentage as compared to having to do something. And that's really, going back to this idea of performance outcomes. again, that's something we need to look at. Like, what are we really trying to teach here? What is it? You know, we all just kind of keep, yeah, well, this is the way it's been done, and we've always done it this way, and I learned this way, and this is how we do it. And I think the Center of Teaching and Learning has done a great job to teach us. Yeah, you know what? I might have been a good photographer. You know, I learned how to make a picture and stuff, and I learned from all these people about how to teach photography. But I have a whole new generation of students, and they don't know what's going on, and I need to figure out how to work with them. And this is some of that. And I know you know, for me, because I know the scariest part is that this is a jobs issue. I know it's a job. I know that underlying it, it's about people thinking like, I got to get retrained, or maybe they don't need as many English teachers anymore, or whatever it is. But, you know, again, we can just react from fear and confusion and just say, no, you still got to do whatever, you know, the blue book essay or whatever it is. Or we could just really sit down and, you know, which we've always done. You know what you do when you don't have to do all that stuff ahead of time, the other stuff that you were talking about, Jimena? It gives you the time to create. That is what AI is going to do for the human race, is it's going to give us the time to create instead of having to do all the stuff we had to do before. That kind of freedom. You know, like you know what I do now when I have to do papers? I basically dictate into Word at first because I'm the worst typist you ever met. And you know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
the first draft is dictation. And then but of course I got to go back, I got to clean it up. But you know, it's
So,
just, yeah,
so
what?
not to like, then we're going to Marissa. This is really important though. We have to remember that we are experts. You're an expert. You know how to use language. You have written many papers, right?
Right.
And so what counts for us, may not count for our students. And that's where I want us to be very, very.
But that's basically because you keep going back to this thing that like to get out of here, somebody has to be able to write, you know, perfectly. Somebody has to write a research paper perfectly. And
No, it's
you
just
know,
what I
that's
want.
not,
But
you got to rethink that.
Right. I will shut up because Marissa, tell me. Sorry.
Thanks, Jimena. Hugo, I'm going to respond. I want to ask you a question and then respond to what you said. So you're an artist, Hugo, correct? Generative AI can make art. I can go into a generative AI thing and say, I want to paint an impressionistic masterpiece of these 6 things. And then artists are out of jobs. So I want you to think about this beyond writing for a moment, right? In terms of the other stuff that you've just said about how, you know, maybe we don't want people to write anymore. Maybe I've got issues, Hugo, my friend, because as a writing professor, right? I mean, I'm a composition and rhetorician, right? That's my thing. My thing is arguing. So if I'm thinking about what I want students to do, I look at the revised Bloom taxonomies, right? And that talks about things like curation and creation, the things that you very much mentioned. But you still kind of need to at least be able to logically think, and you still need to be able to give that information in some way, right? And you're either going to give that information, unless all of a sudden we're doing interpretive dances, which, you know, I'm not opposed to. You're either going to give that information orally, or you're going to give that information through writing, because there's still not other ways necessarily that we are communicating kind of at a systems level, right? And nobody has to write anything perfectly to get out of LaGuardia. I mean, if you look at our assessment of writing, our students at best are, you know, approaching proficiency, right? Which means that they're not doing the perfect. They're doing the good enough. And I think that's what we ask for. We ask that students engage in some language-based way, whether that's oral or written. And when we're asking them to engage in other ways, that is digital that allows for more media-based production, they often still need to either speak or write about the digital creation. So, you know, I think I'm much closer to Alex's points here. Like, you know, AI is not going to steal our jobs. It's going to change things, right? AI is not, you know, students already can see the difference between a piece of writing that has been generated by AI and a piece of writing that has been generated by an individual. They often see that the individual writing stuff is better, right? Because it has heart. So until we actually get AI to have feelings and senses and all of that stuff that makes writing anything from a poem to a research paper robust and real, you know, I'm not really overly concerned. I don't feel like we're on the Titanic. I don't feel like we're being made obsolete. I think it's really that we need to teach students how to use the tools. I love AI. It writes great discussion questions for me. I hate writing discussion questions. I think that AI can be great to help students brainstorm, right? I'm not opposed to the fact that my students have terrible mini essays at the ends of their essays. I'm opposed to the fact that they're passing it off as their own work. Right? So, you know, you want to skeleton out something on AI and then fill it in with your sources and your beliefs and all of that. More power to you. That has freed you up to create, right? That has freed you up to do that creation moment of the actual intellectual thinking rather than the grunt work of the outline. Okay, I'm done.
Did you say you wanted my answer?
No, wait, wait. I don't want
You
your answer.
don't want
yet.
my answer, do
I
you?
don't want your answer yet because Lubitsa has her
I
hand up.
bet you.
Okay, Lubitsa, go.
Yes, sure. What I wanted to say connects to both Hugo and Marissa's point. So in the CUNY CTL Council, so this is the CTLs across CUNY, one of the other centers has done a student survey, and a very frequent concern that students have about AI is, what does this mean for my profession, for the profession that I'm getting ready to enter? And I think both Hugo and Marissa spoke about that we need to prepare them to know how to use AI in the profession they're about to enter. So if it's something to do with writing, then for students to learn how to use it in some of the ways that Marissa explained, or similarly to Hugo's point as well, that is the main concern, really, to give students the tools to be successful with this thing that's going to be out there. You know, whether it's a Titanic for certain professions or not, I mean, I don't really want to get into that debate, but that students need to know how to use that, how to use it, and what does this mean for me when I enter whatever it is I'm hoping to do with my degree.
So again, I think that we're moving from, like I said, you know, the sort of more negative, because, you know, in January of 2023, pretty much every single professor I knew was like, we need to stop this. We need to, you know, figure out how to, you know, like we need cheating test, you know, detectors. And I was like, you can't really detect the cheating, because here's the other thing. It's true that AI cannot write with heart yet, but it's getting pretty, you know, depending on the tool that you're using, it's going to get pretty close, and it's not going to take that long. Now, because, and of course, you can tell it to imitate your style. You know, and the students eventually will, you know, with TikTok and company, they will tell each other how to do this, right? You can just provide the bot with enough samples of your own writing, and then you tell it, write this way, and it will write the way that you write, you know, including with spelling mistakes or whatever, you know, whatever your tone is. So as they're going to get better, and as they get better, they will seem to have heart. So I think that going back a little to the original question that I was asking Sigmund, you know, it's like that I like that idea of fraud, but also this idea of, like, you know, replacing your own self with another self. And what I mean as a Wikipedian, for me, what's interesting is that this self is sort of a collective self, right? So the bot grabs stuff from all over the web, right? And books and etc. There's tons of different sources for its data set. And then it creates a sort of like social version of what you want, right? So for me, like, it's more a question of how much, you know, how much do we want the learning to be replaced? What kinds of learning do we want it to be replaced by the bot? Right? That's where I'm sort of in the universe at this moment. Yes, Hugo, tell us.
I was going to say, get back to Marissa's question, is like, yeah, my industry today, there are 10% of the people that used to be working in the film and in the photographic industry when I got out of grad school, and it's getting better all the time, what it can do. But you know what it can't do? And you were touching on a little bit, Jimenez, no picture can take a Hugo picture, yet. I mean, maybe because there isn't enough of me out there in the universe, they could figure it out. And so nobody can be a better Hugo. And that's what the way art works, is that the closer you get to yourself, sharing it through the mediums in which you learn to be an expert in working with, that's the best art. Those are the best artists. In a sense, I mean, I know that there's art about art, and people are going to buy that. People are going to buy, they're going to buy. And look, I was in Paris a couple of days ago. I was in Montmartre, and they're selling. People are painting people are hand painting photo paintings that looked like some crap that was done in 1895. And so again, it goes back to this idea. I think that students are not stupid, that we infantilize them and we mandate them to take these English courses and science and math, because we tell them, you need to know this before you get out of here. You know what? When I failed out of art school, when I dropped out of art school, the first classes I took was a writing class, because I knew I needed to learn how to write. I knew that. They'll know that too. And it's about, there are different ways that people are communicating. That some kid could now come up with a podcast and communicate the idea themselves. They're gonna have to write it, they're gonna have to present it, they're gonna have to edit, they're gonna have to do all this. Is the new world. Writing is it's like when my program, people are still mandating that we do film, it's a niche that they have to learn how to expose film with an old camera that's broken, with chemistry and all this crap. And when I tell that to people in the industry, they laugh in my face. That digital is beyond. And yeah, you can learn how to use film, but you do that as a choice. It doesn't have to be mandated. I'm going back to the phone.
Okay. Again, for me, like I said, guys, I want you to remember that so far, these are web-based tools. So if for whatever reason, the web is not there, then the work doesn't get done the way that, and so for me, it really is a question of what are the things that they need to know to be able to work with the bot, but also without the bot, because it may not be there. It's a very, very expensive technology. One thing that I would like, there's one myth that people talk about a lot. It's not necessarily a myth, but they say things like, these guys are making money out of my $20 are paying for, your $20 are not, if you have GPT-4, what you pay for GPT-4 is nothing compared to how much they're spending on making this tool keep, go every day, respond to your prompts. This is an incredibly expensive technology that is basically being paid by the big, tech companies so that they can continue to develop them, because all of them really want artificial general intelligence. So they are paying OpenAI, and Anthropic and whatever to continue developing these tools, because they don't really want these bots. They want better bots, right? So this idea that somehow we are paying for them is not true, right? Our money is nothing compared to how much it costs to run the thing. Yeah, and how much it costs the thing to run to the planet, but that's another issue. Somebody had a very specific question. I think it was Erica, about recommending, using. I'm looking. It's at the end of the pad, right? Is it okay to recommend students to use AI as an improved spell checker and grammar checker, or as an outline extender? And I think that these are the kind of questions that we yeah, we need to talk about it. Like, I know Marissa is okay with the outlines. I am too, right? I'm actually pretty much okay with lots of things, a lot of uses for the students, as long as it helps them learn. I feel that we have 12 weeks to teach them something. I don't know about you guys, but I'm a writing teacher, and basically in some classes I meet the students 24 times. And somehow they're supposed to be way better at the thing that I'm teaching just by meeting me 24 times, right? And some homework, right? And I find that idea, I've always found that idea kind of laughable, right? So, if the tools, in my case, if the tools are going to help them, yes, but I'm not sure that they help them. And that is my concern, right? And that is what I would like to explore, is literally, is cognitive development, is it hurting cognitive development? Because what is the point of me having them use a tool that's actually hurting them, not letting them learn properly? So my answer to you, Erica, would be, it depends on how you feel about it. How do you feel about this, guys, about them using the generators to do parts of their work? Not the whole work, not the whole paper, just parts of the paper, parts of the whatever it is. Okay, Marissa, go.
I mean, I think it really depends on the class, right? Like if I was teaching ESL and the point of that class was to teach students how to speak and use and write English in academically acceptable ways, I probably wouldn't be okay with them using spell checks and grammar checks and things like that. But, you know, I'm teaching like first year composition, right? I'm assuming that most people in my class have come through a lot of years of schooling. And, you know, by the time they're with us, they've either learned what a comma splice is or they haven't. And, you know, I, with a PhD in English, still struggle with comma splices. Grammarly, which is an AI tool, is going to fix that for me. Am I putting a paper into ChatGPT or Bard and saying, fix my paper? No, but I write with Grammarly as an attachment to my web browser all the time. You know, is Grammarly going to give me words that I want to use? Never. It doesn't have the vocabulary I want, but it's going to tell me when I have a comma splice, and I'm okay with that for myself. I'm okay with that for my students. Just like I'm okay with it, like I said to Hugo, I'm okay with them using a AI to kind of start to outline something, but I don't want them to fully produce something through AI, right? If AI gives them 27 ideas about, I don't know, why online learning is bad or good, I want them to be able to figure out which of those ideas they would then want to take and develop into actual, you know, an arc of a research paper.
Great. Joy.
Yeah, I'm going to say I think it can be helpful, because the one issue I've had with my composition classes for years is outlining.
Yes.
Not that I'm not teaching them how to outline. I am giving them samples. We're going over it in class. We're doing it in computer labs, like all of that. And yet I find, just like with presentations, students would rather take the hit. It's a homework grade, take the homework grade hit, and not produce the outline and skip right to the essay, because they just have not been taught the value of an outline. And no matter how many times I tell them it's valuable, they don't believe me. So I do think that the AI tool could be helpful for those students. If you're not going to do it yourself, at least do it with a crutch that, you know, can help you get to where you need to go, basically.
If I may add a note to that, because I've been doing a lot of internet work over the years, the fragmentation of writing, you know, the way that we write on the web, we write a little bit here, a little bit there, you know, a tweet here, so on and so forth. It's really like, if you think about it, we were raised with essays. We know, you know, we can write 20 pages and have a thread and so on and so forth, and a focus. And but for many students, you know, most of the writing happens in fragmented ways. And so, as you say, Joy, you know, outlining is it, and just having a coherent, you know, long coherent argument is something that's very familiar to them. And again, very hard to learn in 12 freaking weeks, right? And so if, as you say, they can utilize an outline to sort of go, oh my God, you know, yes, this is more or less what I want to say, but I don't want to use point 2 because I want to say this other thing. I'm like, why not? Right? I don't, if it's helping you get there, right? I would be totally for it, especially because for me, in the way that I teach, when they get to the outline is whether they fail the class or they don't fail the class. Because some of them get stuck there, they cannot move forward, they cannot start drafting, and then they literally fail the class because they're incapable of like putting together some like basic ideas of how they want the paper to go. And it's the terrible thing, you know, to see them fail because they can't just put together like some basic ideas together. So just a few thoughts. Julia, is that, sorry,
That's okay. Yeah,
is that how you pronounce your name?
very close. Don't worry about it. Thanks.
Okay.
So first of all, thank you. This is very much needed meeting. I was in teaching for the last, I think, 2 semesters, and when I was back this semester, I was shocked because all of my students were writing better papers than I could have in such a short period of time. Then I realized that, oh, that's okay, that's AI. So I was struggling with it because I've been reading about AI for years, but I was, I think, struck by the practicality of it, right? But I'm from social science, so I take race and gender and, you know, income seriously to evaluate my student. And a lot of my students, like myself, they are immigrants or first generations of immigrant families. So AI somewhat make them, offer them same resource. So there's some equality. I like it. But what I didn't like is that creativity is taken away from them. So I first asked them to have a in-class writing, and it was horrible. It was just horrible. Some of them just wrote a paragraph, some of them just a few lines sketched and didn't know what to write. And I told them, frankly, they should use it. But first and foremost, I don't know how to use it properly. So what I wanted to at least take away from this meeting is, can we as LaGuardia offer some educational seminars or meetings, or I don't know, maybe there are some, I don't know, I'm not aware of it, to educate us first. And then embedding that into maybe classroom discussions that how AI could make it, you know, their lives better, to have an outline, to, you know, whatever their weaknesses, because they feel confident, right? And I felt very uncomfortable when I asked them to write because their confidence level was just, you know, was on the floor, and no one wanted to have an eye contact with me. They were unhappy. It's I think has more than one dimension to discuss about the, you know, future of jobs and how it will affect their future. How much we should worry about AI integrated into our lives, but whatever it is, fear is not going to help. So I am willing to learn more about AI and how we can use it in a meaningful and letting our students to, you know, being not punitive and using these punitive words to scare them away from education. But what are the beneficial ways? Because it's there. We cannot just deny it. We cannot prevent it. Instead, we should make peace of it, and maybe we can even move forward to tell those AI generators, because, you know, so much data is being entered, how you clean that data, how can you make sure that they are not receiving wrong data or wrong ideas. So what I think the first thing though, to me, and some of you already mentioned, to educate ourselves, benefits, you know, or weaknesses, or, you know, about AI, and then how we should be frank with our students, how, to what extent is useful, because they have to talk. They have to present themselves. They have to write an email. They have to, there are some times that they cannot use any tools, but it's only their bare hands and a piece of paper. Or just computer. Right? So
Right.
that's all I have to say, and thank you so much for organizing the meeting.
And remember, I'm going to be sharing some materials with you guys. So something that before you go, because I know that we're getting to 1 hour, so some of you may have to move on. So the English department has been working on trying to do exactly this, right? Figuring out how to bring critical AI literacy to the department. And so that basically, you know, once you know, as you were saying, you can decide what to do in the classroom, right? Once you know, you know your class, so you can start making decisions. So the first step is awareness. And so we're about to embark in that in the English department in March, right? We're going to have training, right, for everybody in the department, so that we're all on the same page, so we can have discussions, because you cannot have discussions if you don't know what it is, right? So to be able to have discussions and decide things, whatever it is that we decide, we have to all have more or less be at the same level of understanding. So as you say, we're going to do that first, and this may be something you may want to take back to your departments, like have some sort of, you know, training. And obviously, if the training that works for us works for the college or other departments, we'd be happy to share those. We are making all of the materials Creative Commons, so you know, you can reuse them as you wish and adapt them as you wish. But all the stuff that I have right now is specifically for the English department and the things that you know, matter to us most, right? So for instance, whatever I share with you is not going to have anything on video or you know, images, and you know, because we are mostly concerned about text generators and you know, and how they affect writing, right? The learning of writing. So I just want you to know. So basically, our strategy is awareness is first, so then it can be passed on to the students, and then those professors who are interested in learning how to use it in the classroom, then they can move on to like a smaller group of people that do pedagogy, right? So awareness, everybody must have awareness, right? It has to happen. Then if you don't want to use it for whatever reason, yay you, but if you do want to use it, then how do we use it in a way that makes sense for, you know, ourselves, and also for obviously for the department, what we're trying as a department to do. And of course that means it's a long road, right? But so I just wanted to share that with you, that that's happening in English, and hopefully, you know, we can make it happen for everybody pretty soon. And this is the start, right? Like the CTL decided that they wanted to have these roundtables so that people could talk about their issues, and we could see what are the things that matter to you and how can we address them, right, as we move along to the spring semester and then the fall semester. Yes, Luz.
Yes, I just want to, you know, acknowledge. So it's Jimena, a number of people in the library. I don't know everybody so well yet. A number of people in the library, Pablo Avila as well. So it's Milena Queller from the math department. So it's a generative AI working group, and we are trying to replicate what Jimena explained is happening for the English department on a more general, broad scene for the college. So awareness, and this is the first in the series of roundtable discussions on just awareness and knowing how to. If you fall into the category of those who haven't really done much with AI, we'll provide a forum to try it in the company of peers to try it and react to it. And then again, how to talk about it with students, how to develop critical literacy, critical way of using AI. So there will be, like, be on the lookout. I'll post it on the CTL website as well, and send the announcement out. This is, you know, we're kind of what's the very, very often repeated metaphor? We're building the plane as we are flying. I need AI to give me something new to use in this situation. So I will also be meeting with department chairs to talk about, do you want this working group to do something specifically for your departments? We just want to, and really at Jimena's urgency, we want to reach as many people as possible with these kinds of discussions, and you know, going from general to much more specific. So more to come.
So if you look on your screen, and I know that some of you are just on the phone, but if you're in English, guys, you don't worry, Joy, you're saying, how can I find some basic readings? Don't worry, we're going to give them all to you. We have everything ready. It's going to be lovely. You're going to love it. But for those of you who are not in English, right, we have basically put together a training that is hands-on as well as informational. So the first part is informational, and it has these, you know, basically, you know, it follows these questions, right? So it's 2 parts. What is it? And knowing how to use it properly, right? So the training will have information on these 2 aspects, right? And then it will have a, you know, hands-on section for the department, the different faculty members to complete as they wish, right? That actually will help them with their own assignments. And so it's a practical thing with their own assignments and their own syllabi and their own materials, so they can see how useful the tools can be or not, right? And then they're going to tell us how much, you know, the tools help them put together certain materials or not, and we'll have a discussion about it. So basically, the idea for the English department is, as I said, awareness, right, through a very basic training that will be done during the spring. And then at the end of the spring, we're going to have a conversation and see where the department wants to move forward. And what directions are they interested? And hopefully either during the spring or by the end of the spring, they will be ready to be able to talk to the students with enough knowledge so that, you know, they can incorporate what they've learned in their classroom. But definitely by the fall, we should be ready to, you know, do that as hopefully, like most of the English department, at least the ones that are not on sabbatical and so on and so forth. And I'm going to send many things to you, but one of the things, if you are leaving, one of the things that you should do, I would suggest, the first thing is to poll your students. You know, you'd be surprised, depending on whether your students are day students or night students or older students or younger students or whatever, they may not really know what these technologies are all about. Some of them actually may be very suspicious of them and very, I had about 1/3 of my students, after they used it a couple of times, they were very averse to using them. They did not like them. They felt they disliked them extremely. And they're like, Professor, do I have to use this? Can I not use it? I'm like, of course, right? So you'd be surprised that there will be students who are put off by the tools. So you may want to, step 1, just have a tiny poll, and I'm going to share one thing with you right now. But again, as I said, I have that in, hold on 1 second. So this one here, I'm going to share with you real quick, so you take a look at what we've been doing in the English department. But you can, you know, as Lubitsa was saying, one important question that is not there, I'm pretty sure is not there, is, you know, how is this going to affect my job, you know, my future career? And so you may want to add something like that. You know, you feel free to use this. I'm going to send it along, right? Ask your student questions about how much they know. That would be the first step. And you might be surprised to know that there's many students in your class that actually don't know much about it. Second thing, of course, you should have a some kind of guideline. So I'm also going to share with you the possible language for your syllabus, right? So these are a bazillion different versions of how you can talk about this. The kinds of, you know, little blurbs that you can put in your syllabus. So you have to decide what language works for you best. You may also want to, you know, talk to your department as to whether the department wants to have some kind of central policy, right? So that it's kind of obvious, but I'm just, you know, saying it for in case, you know, you don't want to do something the department disagrees with, I would argue. So here's this one. This one has tons and tons of different kinds of language that we got from around the web, that feel free to use, all right? Depending on how you feel about the technology. I want you to know that in my case, I use something like this one, the one about from the Ascension syllabus. This is more or less the one that I use in my classes. But again, you know, this is how you want to phrase it. It's up to you. And I would maybe have a conversation with your chair so that maybe you can have a meeting about what kind of language you want to put in the syllabus, if at all, right? So how are we feeling? Do we go to further questions that you have? You okay? Okay. So where are the questions here? Okay, so I think that another question that people have is how do I discuss things with students, right? And again, all of this means that you have to understand the issues first to be able to discuss them with the students. I can tell you from what I know is that the issues are many. They're varied. I think that probably if I were to start with something in the classroom, the way that I do it is I always start with the limitations of the bots, and then I move on to the benefits. So I don't introduce these bots as yay bots. I introduce these as ouch bots, right? Like ouch, ouch, ouch. Check out the many, many ways that they mess up, the many, many ways that they omit information. They don't represent you at all, right? Because let me tell you, the web is not the world, is what I tell my students, right? The web is the web, and it represents a very small group of people, and mostly speaking in English. So, you know, so I do lots of exercises to show to the students, not just tell the students, but show the students how these technologies are far from perfect, and which is a problem. They deployed them before they were really good, and so now we have to deal with that. Not only do we have them, but actually they're not that good. GPT-4 is another issue. Gemini, when it comes out apparently this week, it may be really good. I don't know, right? Gemini is going to be the new version of Bard by Google. So maybe Gemini and GPT-4 are another level that we need to talk about in another. So Lubitsa, we might want to have at some point something just about the better versions, because most of us have only had an encounter with the free versions of these tools, and they are, believe me, not as capable as the paid versions of the tools, right? So if a student has $20, then now they can have access to an extremely powerful AI that we don't even know exists, because we don't have, you know, we haven't paid that subscription, and so we don't know how good it is. So that's another conversation maybe we may want to have. You know, what happens when the students use better AI than us, because, you know, we're not willing to pay for the $20 for, or whatever, you know, Google is going to charge for the super Bard, sorry, super Gemini, I don't know, Ultra. They keep changing the names, they drive me nuts. The one thing that I would like to know, and I don't know if Pablo's here, he mentioned something the other day, is Copilot going to be available for the students? Because I know that Pablo said the other day that Microsoft's Copilot, which is a version of GPT, is going to be available for CUNY people because we have 365. And apparently we have the license to have Copilot. But does that include the students? Are the students' accounts different from the faculty accounts, right? Because if students have Copilot in their Office 365 guys, that's it, right? I mean, they have it. We can, they have one of the better versions of the bots right there. So that would be a question that I don't know what the answer is, but I would love to know it at some point. So, would you like to talk about like how to discuss using the bots in class? Is that a thing? I don't see my gallery. Let's see. Give me a yay or a nay. Discussing bots with, okay, I see, okay. So before I tell you what I do, what would you think what can you come up with? You're a very smart group. What's your ideas? Like what are some ways that you could do this in your classroom? Do you do it at the beginning of the semester? Do you make it an assignment? What? Ana Maria, tell us. We can't hear you, Bruno.
Right, yeah.
Got it.
I simply asked them because I don't know that much about it myself. When I became aware of, by discussing to colleagues how students were using this, I simply but this was last fall when I became aware of it. And when I became aware in papers of the difference between some assignments and the others, you usually get to know, especially in a small class, the style of a student. So there was so much difference that I knew that something was going on. So I simply asked them, are you aware of artificial intelligence? Are you aware of how it is used? And I did not get, maybe one or two were aware of it, but not many. Not, I asked in advanced Spanish composition, which is where.
Right. So you would have them discuss this perhaps in a class, or?
They didn't. I will now for the spring, but when I posed a question, I didn't even know exactly what questions to ask because I didn't know. This is why I came here today. I came here
the awareness is the most
especially
important.
to learn and to see what the concerns of others are. And
right. Yeah.
I became aware of ChatGPT about a year ago, and
right.
not at LaGuardia, from a study group that I have that we read the literary works, etc., etc. And so I don't know. After this session and others that I expect to attend, I will be able to guide a more productive discussion.
Okay.
But right now I am entirely a neophyte.
So, let me share with you now that Anaria is saying this. Okay, so give me 1 second. Where is this? Here. Ana Maria, I'm going to suggest to you, if you want to learn more about the technology, but just the technology, right? So it's not yet how to use it in your classroom, but how does it work, that kind of thing. This video is probably the most balanced, the very clear and balanced explanation that I've seen so far. Okay, so this is there should be, wait, why didn't do the link? So this is from the Alan Turing Institute, and for some reason the link didn't copy, so give me a second. Oh, I need to go to the stupid thing. Okay, maybe there. Coming up. So I'm sharing now a video, a YouTube video. from the Alan Turing Institute. This is going to be a recommended video for the English department. They don't have to watch the whole thing because some of them will kill me if I make them watch something for an hour, right? So they will have another one that is shorter that they can watch, but this one I would say is the better one. So if you have a moment in your life, you have an hour, it's worth an hour of your life. The professor explains everything spectacularly well, answers most of the most pressing questions. So I recommend this one at this moment. There might be some other ones that are really excellent, right? But that's a good intro to what the technology is and how does it work. So any other people, like, what would you do to introduce this technology to your students? Joy?
Okay, I'm getting a little bit ambitious with my comp class for spring because I already do media literacy as a theme. So I wanted to replace the second half of the semester with AI writing literacy. So my plan is for their final project to be something like a process paper where I give them a research paper assignment. They use AI in some way to plan out that assignment, and then they critique the plan that the AI gave them. So I'm thinking maybe they ask the AI to create an outline and some citations, and then they write a process paper where they vet the outline and they vet the citations. I'm not sure how that will work because I'm not even sure how the students are going to use ChatGPT yet. I mean, I'm sure I'll sign up for it, but I'm not sure if it's going to be available for them like in a lab on the computer.
Yeah.
So I may have to do it myself where I, they give me their prompts and I print it out for them and give it back to them or something like that. So I'm not entirely sure.
So Joy is bringing up something super important. A couple of things, Joy. Thank you so much. So, first of all, whenever if I tell you about the ways that I'm using it, like the basic structure is what Joy is talking about. So exploration, right? Feedback and reflection. So those are the three methodology-wise. It's like we explore the tool, right? We, we give some feedback. What did we find? And then we reflect, the students reflect. How did this help me? What did I learn? What is missing? The reflective part probably is definitely the most important. It's not so much the using it. It's like thinking about, is this really useful for me, right? So any assignment where you can do that, it's a good way to introduce the tool, right? You let them play with it, but then think about what does that mean, right? And so you can have a conversation with them later about it, right? The other thing that you said, Joy, is really important because a lot of professors don't know how to, have the whole class use this tool. Because right now, as you know, you have to, be part of the club, right? You have to give your email, your date of birth, right? Lots of stuff. So people don't like having the students give private information. I am one of them. I feel my students are surveilled enough as they are. And I know that we give away our data all the time, but I'm hoping that at some point we stop doing that we just learn as a society to like be a little more careful with our data, but whatever. So what I do is all of our computer labs at LaGuardia have Edge. Sadly, they have the Edge browser, sadly, because it sucks. But Edge has Bing, right? So Bing in its creative mode is GPT-4 with some constraints put together by Microsoft. So it's not the same as GPT-4 because Microsoft is doing things to it so that it's safe, quote unquote, for the general public to access it. So Bing can get pretty wacky sometimes, especially in creative mode. But if you're asking them for pretty factual things like, hey, create me an outline or something, it can totally do it. I would ask the students if they feel comfortable, right? If a student does not feel comfortable, Joy, maybe just do it yourself, right? So say like, give me your thesis, right? And tell me more or less, and then do it for them using GPT or whatever, Bard, Claude, whichever, right? And you may want to, if they have Google accounts, if they feel comfortable with joining their Google account with Bard/Gemini, then anybody who has Google has Bard or Gemini eventually in a few days or whenever Google decides to deploy Gemini. So that's another way, Joy. The Bard has a different, it's a pretty expressive bot. It's pretty emotional compared to GPT. So it's actually kind of an interesting experiment to like compare the outputs. So they might even want to do that. I don't know. So that's another reflective idea to introduce them to things.
That's crazy. You're gonna have to teach a master class in this.
No, it's really not. I'm more worried about the limitations of the bots, to be honest, not the potential benefits. Anybody else has something that you like doing? Aha. ChatGPT was available in the lab this fall. There was a CTL seminar on AI use. Yeah, but what the thing, Lubica, is that Bing AI right now is the only one that you don't have to give away your personal information to use. You can use it anonymously, and I like that. One thing, guys, if you use it in the labs, it cannot generate images unless you log in. If you log in to your Microsoft 365, whatever it is, then it will do images. But if you just want text generating stuff, all day long, no problem. So you can use any of the labs, any of the computers at LaGuardia that have Edge on them, including yours. Wow. Edge is a really bad browser.
Yes, I'm sorry, that's an important distinction. Yes, for ChatGPT, you have to sign up with an email address.
And for Claude. Claude is actually quite good. I recommend it.
I was just speaking to the point that yes, it is available in the LaGuardia computer labs, that students, if they have an account, they can access it. At one point, there was something wrong with the connections, and we thought that maybe LaGuardia stopped, put a like a wall or something, but it wasn't. It was just a connection. But yeah, students can access it, but they have to have an account.
Oh, it's just a bad, Anadia, it's just a bad browser. I have to use it because I'm using Bing all the time to try things, right? And Copilot, and it's putrid. Any other ideas of how to, so Joy gave us one, and I know Marissa told us about, maybe allowing the students to outline. Any other ideas of how to discuss this or introduce this? Natalia, sorry. Natalia?
Yes, hello. Just a very minor idea, and also I'm completely new and ignorant about this new technology. But thanks to the suggestion of a colleague, I'm in the Natural Sciences department. In the course I was teaching last fall, and that I will teach also this spring, they have to do a research project, right? And with real data that we generate in the course. And when we get the data, we get a list of bacteria, for example, maybe 50 bacteria, right? And so a colleague suggested me to, enter the list of bacteria in ChatGPT and ask, well, which of these bacteria can break down oil, for example, or can break down plastics, right? So the bot will tell me which bacteria will do that. But I told the students, you can do this to add this to your research paper, but then you have to look for a citation, right? Because who knows if it is true, right? That bacteria breaks down plastics, for example, right? And so eventually they have to find a research paper to support that claim.
Nice.
So that was the basic thing that I did, but I don't think I did a good job because I didn't know how to introduce, the use of this technology.
Right.
And was my first time.
I love this idea though, the doing the research, like doing the checking, right? You must always fact check, which is, by the way, something that we have to do. The bots, the thing that we need to remember is that the data sets that the bots are using are very limited. They seem gigantic because yes, it's the whole web, but the whole web is a very, very narrow place. Because they don't know the answers to everything, when they don't know the answers to everything, they're not people, but when they cannot grab the answers, right, to put them together, they make them up. because one of the main goals is to answer your question. And so they have to answer your question some way.
Yeah.
And one way is to just totally fabricate, an answer. Now the different companies are working with them more and more, so that many times the answer is, I cannot answer that, or I don't know the answer to that, right? So every now and then you're going to get the bot telling you that it cannot do that. But still, for a big chunk of the time, they just, grab whatever seems likely and give it to you. So fact checking, I love this fact checking assignment where, you can introduce, as I said, the limitations of the bot first, so that the students understand that, yay, it's lovely, but I need to check it all the time. Otherwise I'm gonna, be one of, remember those lawyers that, I don't know if you saw it in the news, the two New York lawyers that presented a case to the judge, and all of the support for their case was based on cases that GPT had found, but it hadn't really found, it just made them up. And the judge, they got a fine. So things like that, you can show like an article like that to the students and say, you don't want to be this person. You don't want to be in your job and your boss laughing at you because, you did not check.
Yeah.
Ian, say.
Hello. Yeah, well, I just wanted to echo that, what Natalia mentioned, because I was in a learning community last year with one of Natalia's colleagues, and I remember a situation very similar to this where, yeah, the like the pollutants, for example, it's like, it's a list of like 50 or something. And it's like something that it could be very helpful so that they're not spinning their wheels trying to find information about all 50 of these, or they run the quick search like she's suggesting, and then can follow up. And it reminded me in that learning community last year, and hopefully in a learning community with Natalia this semester, what I think AI could help us with is, like a class, like a bio class, there's so much content and there's just frankly not a ton of time for writing. And then the class I teach, which is an urban studies elective, we can kind of work together and kind of serve as a check in a couple different ways with students using AI. And I can imagine, like, for example, in the past, the students have made research posters based on experiments that they're doing in the classroom. And I can see using ChatGPT as some kind of aid with kind of checkpoints across the different classes in the learning community, where we're kind of coming at it from our own disciplinary backgrounds. So like I might be looking at it more from the perspective of, yeah, are the sources real or are the sources good and available to you? Whereas Natalia might just need them to be able to quickly figure out which of these pollutants are producing these results, while also, doing that background work to make sure the sources are what the information you're getting is valid. Anyway, so I'm just thinking of like scenarios where we're all kind of working together to ensure students are using it in kind of responsible ways that aren't going to, bite them, basically.
So if I may, like before, I'm gonna give you another document in a second about what are some kinds of things that you can discuss with your students in your class. Like, again, if you're English, you've seen these, but if you're not English, maybe you haven't. But one thing that I really want to emphasize about what Ian is saying, and that's really, really important, something we are not talking about enough is the information literacy insanity that it's about to happen to us, not just related to the election, of course, but in general. If you think about the fact that these tools can produce incredible amounts of text in seconds, right? The obvious consequence is going to be a web where a vast amount of the sites that you go to now are going to be AI generated. And let me tell you, the people who are using the text generated information, they're not going to be fact checking their stuff. And because the bots, like I said, fabricate things all over the, we're going to have a really, really junky web. And yet this is the place where most people still go to find their information. And of course, share their information with friends, right? So very, very soon, we are going to enter a world where it's going to be super hard to know what is, fact and fiction, what it was made by a bot, it's going to be really bad. So if you have an assignment that somehow helps with, information literacy, that may be the one place where you can have discussions or an assignment for your students to, learn, for them to learn how to fact check things that they find on the web. And to figure out like what kinds of resources they want to use in the future when they're not in school anymore, where they don't have the databases anymore. It's just them and the web, right? Pretty much how they're gonna navigate that. So if you have anything in your classes that you can work that in, please. And of course, work with the librarians to make the assignments better. But in terms of discussing things with students, so here are some things that you may or may not want to, I don't know, it depends on your, again, as I told you, this has to do with the English department. So I don't know how many of these subjects will actually be useful to you guys, but I'm going to send this one along too. This is a new version. So if you're an English person, there are a few, not many, but a few things that are new, right? These are like the major issues with these tools that may fall under social science, natural science. There's some things on the environment, right, that you may want to connect to different moments in your class. So the way I see that we don't have a lot of time. So the way that I do this, but I have a writing class. So I have a lot of time. I can create a whole class around this. As a matter of fact, Olga Aksakalova actually created a literacy class where the students start with their own literacy, then they read and write about the journey to literacy from famous people, right? And then the third part of the class is all about literacy and these bots. And so she literally integrated the bots, as Joy was saying towards the end of her class. But she can do that. I can do that. We can do that in English because we have a very, very flexible content. We can do things with our content. So here are some, in this document that I should just share with you, here are some ideas of how to have a discussion with your students. So in my case, as I was saying, I put it in my syllabus and I discuss the syllabus. Right? So I have the language that I shared with you in the syllabus. And then I start immediately with the limitations for at least half of the semester. Limitations. How they're wrong, how they're bad, how they're going to mess up, how you need to check on them, So finally, by the time that they actually use them for their outlines or so on and so forth, they are ready to be critical, to, it's probably going to mess up, it's probably going to be what I need, I'm probably going to have to add something, I'm probably going to have to delete something, right? And yeah, so I wish I could tell you it's a lot more sophisticated than that, but I just spend an incredible amount of time doing assignments that will prove to them that this is not the panacea. On the contrary, on the very contrary, they need to be on it like hawks. And then once you know that, you are allowed to use it. That's kind of like in a nutshell, what I do, right? Any other thoughts on maybe the document that I just gave to you, or approaches to dealing with the technology? Uh-oh. See? Yes, Ian.
Jimena, I have something that I think I'm really concerned, or I'm really interested in AI on these kind of two levels. And I mentioned it in the document that we all were adding to earlier. And that's the one is what we were talking about before, the kind of the ways we can help students work with it and really help ourselves as well. But the other is like this broader discussion of like, what's like what's like actually going on with AI? Like what are like the corporate forces behind this that are kind of like, you know, sort of contributing to this increasing kind of consolidation and like corporatization of like our lives essentially? And is that even something that our do people care about this? Am I, you know, sort
No,
of
this is
shouting into the
actually,
void? But it just seems like such a critically important thing, but I don't hear as
so,
much about that. You know what I mean? Because we're talking about it in the context of the college.
right. So not in the discussion, the ones that I just sent to you guys, but in the training for the English department, there's a tiny section on the search for artificial general intelligence. So AGI is the motivator, right? Which is why they're throwing all this money, like billions, trillions, right? Because they all want to, you know, it's the main motivator is AGI. And of course it's based on science fiction narratives about the future of plenty for everyone and, you know, benefits, and we all live in the singularity and all of that kind of stuff. So it's a very English sort of type of thing, narratives, stories, the stories that we tell about the future. So that's part of it. But of course, there's a darker side, which is this discussed in a book called, I just finished it. It's not the best book, but it's a start, and it probably has, I haven't looked at the further rating in the book. It's called Survival of the Richest. Okay. And I think that it's a very simple book in many ways, the way that it's written is, so that might be like a start if people are interested in these kinds of conversations with their students about like, what is the motivation? I can say that on the one hand, we have the science fictional, you know, sort of, we're building a better world for you little people who don't know anything, and we're the tech people that's we're going to save you all from, you know, global warming and etc. So that's one. And then the other one is, well, you know, it's all about escaping, right, the mess that we made, and just continue to like move on to Mars, move on to, you know. So there's a little bit of that, and that's what Survival of the Richest is about, is how the tech bros are basically trying to put together a world where they can escape all consequences, right? And I mean, and there's more. This is just the beginning, right? But after all the reading I've done, I would say that those two, the utopian and the dystopian side of it, is the motivation, right? The utopian, we're going to transform the world into a better place, and then the ones that are like, no, the world's messed up, and we're just trying to find a way to escape. But you know, sides of the same coin in a way.
What was the title of the other one? Survival
Sorry.
of the Richest, and what was the other
Survival of the Richest. What was it? No, I think I mentioned only that one.
Was it just the, oh, sorry. When you were
Yeah.
saying utopian, dystopian, I thought you
Yeah,
were
the other
referring
one
to two
is
different books.
the other one is like, if you know, I'm a sci-fi person, so if you know, it's just, yeah, it's you build this machine and it solves everything for you. We have tons and tons of those. Those are science fiction narratives that are very, very deeply embedded in the ethos of Silicon Valley, right? So transhumanism, you know, accelerationism, all of that kind of stuff. It's deeply, like, you look at the mission statement of OpenAI, and they tell you that they're trying to build, you know, a bot that will solve the world's problems, right? And so that this bot that we got, this LLM, this little thing that writes things, that's just one tiny step in the you know, in the search for general intelligence, right? This is like a byproduct kind of thing. Does that make any sense? Yes, Libica.
Yeah, so I wanted to mention, if there is interest in that particular discussion, like my personal interest from the field of linguistics is how this is how there are, I guess, essentially two camps, and one is the tech industry that is pushing this as intelligence, and then there are some voices in linguistics, in the field of linguistics, that are saying this is not even close to how intelligence works in humans. Right. This is powerful statistical thing, and whether pushing this as intelligence kind of like stifles the actual search for how does our brain work. You know,
Absolutely.
like ChatGPT is not even close to explaining how thinking happens. So
Absolutely.
I don't know if this is of interest. And then there's also like the questions of bias that is built into, and that it's going to be continually reproduced because it's built into these systems, because the systems are simply taking written word that exists already with all its limitations and biases and things like that. So, I mean, I don't know if there's interest for that. We could perhaps put that as one of the topics as well, along the what Ian, what you mentioned, kind of like a more of a philosophical, ethical, scientific discussion, unpacking of what big tech is essentially pushing on us.
Yes. So how are we feeling? Are we good? Have some of your questions been answered? Will be the post, questionnaire. Anything else you want us to cover before we go? And if somebody wants to talk to me individually, I'm more than happy to stay and do that. So let me put the, give me a sec. I'm gonna put the post. Don't go away, do the Google form. It'll take 1 second. I will send it also on via email. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna share some of the documents that the English department already has that are that we're using for our own, trying to deal with the situation. And feel free, like I said, they are open source. I mean, yeah, you know what I mean. God, this is one of those days. Creative Commons, so you can adjust them to your department in any way that you want. And I guess we're gonna have more of these, right, Levitsa? Any advertisements for next chats?
I don't have anybody scheduled yet, so Pablo and I were thinking if nobody's scheduled for next week, then that he and I will maybe do a session on, and I've heard quite a few requests for just like how to use it. Can we try it? Can we talk to the limitations? What are the good situations to use it? You know, that kind of more like what it is kind of session for next week. So I will send it out. And also, Jimena, because we have the registration and the emails of people, we could also send your post survey.
Okay, the post survey, and maybe how about I send you the post survey and the materials so that people can have them in an email. Like I'll send you an email with what I need you to send. How's that?
Sure. Yeah, that would be good.
So Ian, can you send me the resource that you just put out on the? Can you send it to me via email? Because I haven't read enough about chatbots, so I need to read another one.
All right, will do.
I am definitely. I'm just saying to you, I am not doing my sabbatical on AI. No, I'm done. After this year, I'm done. I can't. So
I think we can end a little early, Jimena. It's fine.
I wasn't, because I could see that people were sort of, but guys, if you want to stay and talk to me,
thank you so much.
Yeah, if anybody wants to talk to me, one-on-one, please feel free. I can talk about this for hours. It's a sad thing.
So this is my first time recording the session. Do you know how I just like finish recording and it's going to be saved, or you don't really know? Hopefully we'll have a recording. If not, people will come to other sessions.
Okay,
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was wonderful.
sure. I will send you an email in a sec with some materials, and then, yes, Ana Maria.
But I just wanted to thank you, and I hope I can contact you later on, because right now, I'm going to read all these, the information in
Yes.
all these links.
Yes, Ana
Then I
Maria,
will
yes.
have something concrete.
Yes,
To
what
me,
we can
this
do,
was
if you,
baptism by fire.
absolutely, if what we can do is we can set up something so we can do like a Zoom, and then we can talk.
Great,
Okay,
great. Okay,
cool.
I appreciate it. And also, I think my department would benefit. Vera also said that she would like a visit. I am sure that the education and language acquisition, since we are the education department, they will have interesting things. And the Michelle and Katerina are very techy, so I am sure that they have used this already.
Cool.
Some in our department are more a la vanguardia than others. So
Right.
I think it would be an interesting discussion if we put it on the agenda.
Cool. I think, Ana Maria, just so that you know, I was super glad that most of the people here were into moving forward, like just moving away from punishing to
Oh, yes.
with
Oh,
it. I
yes.
am so glad, because we spent an inordinate amount of time at the beginning of 2023, like worrying about that. And I was like, guys, it's gonna happen. So just don't. And they were like, no, we need to stop it. And I'm like, okay, let's do that for 3 months. Fine. And then finally it was like, yeah, no, we can't stop it. So what do we do? And I'm like, that's what we should have been.
I mean, it's there. We can't, if you can find them, join them. I mean, and it can be, I do believe it can be useful when properly used.
Yes.
And if students don't think that this is the panacea, that,
Right.
you have, as you say, you have to show
You have to show them, yeah. So Ana Maria, so I would appreciate it if you and your department, you could start the conversation about, let's move from punishing to, just start the conversation. Because I think that the more, we still have a contingent of people that are still like, let's find them and hunt them down and kill them all.
Oh,
And I'm like,
no, we've had too much of that.
I know. That's what I'm saying. So
Dialogue, not punishment. Dialogue, not punishment.
like I said, if we can move our department slowly but surely towards the what do we do, that would be a lovely thing.
Absolutely. No, I'm with you 100% on that. Please count on me.
Okay. So
yeah, there were a lot of people in the beginning of the meeting, much more when it first started, over close to 30 people. And yeah, this was such a great thing to see that there was a consensus around guidance and not punishment.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, just Ana Maria, when you can, let me know. We'll figure out a time. We'll talk. No problem. Okay?
I'm talking to Arthur on Friday about, just before class cancellation and things like that. And I will mention this because he's always asking us for topics of discussion for the department. So I will ask him. This is very, very productive.
Great. So I'm planning on I actually spoke to the Dean Hoffman. So I'm planning on reaching out to the department chairs and offering like, okay, what are we going to do? And from what I've heard today is, yeah, come to the department meetings. So we will, the working group will prepare maybe a shorter version of what was done today for department meetings to come and do like 1 hour workshop, however, as soon as the departments are ready for that.
Mhm.
So we'll see, we'll definitely get in there and try to share it as widely as possible.
Yeah. Cool. So
Thank you.
No, not at all. I will send you things and you send things and we're
okay.
Yes.
And I wanted to ask you, so I want to do one in March and one in April.
Sure. Yeah, I don't
But
have April there
I
yet.
don't want to overcrowd the schedule. So,
Oh,
no, what I mean is like, I would like for other people to like, feel free to like put their stuff, but I definitely want to do one in March and one in April so that there's, you know, we have the same conversation or similar conversation with more people.
yeah, definitely. You can put in March. I haven't put an April calendar in yet, but I'm gonna add. So you can just add it anywhere, like April.
It's gonna be more or less the same. I mean, hopefully I'll be a better host, but whatever. It is what it is. You got me. Ha. So
Yeah, no, it was wonderful. Yes,
I'm
yes.
just saying, you
No,
know,
it was really wonderful, and thank you again. I have to go to my next meeting now, but I really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you very much.
so
Thanks.
yeah, so it would be the ones that I want to do would be the same, right?
The same as this.
Right. I could do other things too, but I
Yeah,
think
let's talk
more
about that.
people, you know, yeah.
Uh-huh. I was thinking as I was listening to the conversation today, maybe you didn't have a chance as much because you were leading it all. There are like a couple of themes came up. So I'm gonna email you in terms of like if
Yeah, because you're really good at summaries. Better than ChatGPT, let me say.
if some of those themes could be like if you have and I'm thinking even for the departmental meeting, I'm thinking of how do we structure that to encourage more interactions among people? Because here for this, we had no idea. I mean, when I looked at it this morning, there were 12 people signed up. So I'm thinking 12 people, okay, that's going to be fine, you know, but then we had, I think
like
there were 30 people at one point.
At least or something.
Yeah, and maybe we can do an hour and a half. I think maybe 2 hours is,
Oh,
you know,
I thought it was going to be too much, but and it's mostly because people have either meetings after 1 hour or an hour and 30 minutes, right? So, but I mean, it is what it
it's
is.
fine because I think the main thing is just to get them, to get people to come and acknowledge the conversation has to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know what? Do me how about I wait until you put together your summary?
Yeah, I was looking at the summary for, because I'm thinking for me, for the session for maybe next week, because nobody signed up. If you look at the Excel spreadsheet, it's just you and one other person. I don't really know that person. She signed up for something in March, one of the volunteers. So I was trying to come up with an outline for people to try it out. So I think maybe a similar thing, you like to try it out and prepare some activities for faculty to try, you know, prepare some prompts that will show them how the limitations, and then prepare some activities that will show them it would be really good for this. Just an example, not to cover everything.
So I know enough about writing that I know how it affects writing, which by the way, that they're still not understanding, but I know that Hugo thinks it's the best thing since sliced bread. I'm really worried about cognitive development. I really am. Like for me, cognitive development is the one thing that I want to know. So I want to know, does it help or does it hinder?
Yeah, and I don't think there's any research on that.
I don't want to live in a world of people that only know how to press buttons. You know, that's not how it works.
So I think that's it's a good.
No. Particularly because, as I said, it's web-based. So if the web goes, suddenly we don't know how to do stuff. No.
You have these things on the phone as well already.
No, I know, but you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, you have no internet access. You don't know how to do anything.
A solar flare, whatever. But suddenly the whole economy of the world collapses because nobody knows how to do anything. I don't think so. So that for me is like, what are we talking about? And this morning I was watching, I didn't want to say this to the people, but I was watching this really interesting BBC, little BBC thing about how Japan trains their children to use the abacus to do calculations. And how the actual use of the abacus, forget about whether they know how to do math or not, changes their brain and helps them memorize stuff. So what I was trying to sort of bring in, but because I wanted them to talk about what they want to talk about, is that I'm not worried about the production of writing. I'm worried about the cognitive development that happens when you have to write, right? Is it something that we want to lose? or do we want to keep it? That's really the question. Do we want to lose that, whatever it is that happens in your brain when you have to write yourself? Or are we okay with like letting it go and moving on to something else? I don't know.
Yeah, that is a big question. I mean, sometimes I think like I found, I don't remember, some rhetorics book about, people complain about computers, or people started complaining when the computers first came about. A parallel to philosophers, whatever, complaining about how writing corrupts the mind because there's no more memorization, and oral tradition is being lost.
Plato is all about that. Writing.
Yes.
That's what I was saying. I wasn't being facetious when I said maybe we don't need writing. Writing is a technology. And like
yes,
speech, right? We have invented this technology to be able to save stuff so we can memorize, so we can pass on, create civilization. I get it, right?
Yes, yes.
But do we need writing as a technology anymore? It's what I was trying to point out.
Yes,
But
yes, yes.
Separate from that is the benefits of learning to write, that the things that it does to your brain. That's what I'm worried about. I don't know. Would it be good? Would it be bad? Do we need it? Maybe we can throw it out the window and still have a wonderful civilization. I don't, well, we're not going to answer that today, but you know what I mean? Like that's the
Yes,
one.
yes. Those are interesting questions. Absolutely. And that's what Hugo was pointing to. And what I think, like, so he's on one extreme, but I think what can be taken from there is still like, let's think about what are the creative way of students to demonstrate learning objectives in the course that are not writing dependent, because it's really easy to ask students to write an essay, or to write, the short answer, the short answers. So it's just like, can that be something where faculty gets engaged in? Like, what are the alternative ways of assessing knowledge?
Right. So I'm not gonna share this document the way it is, but the one that I was going to, because I was doing other stuff, so I couldn't do it. Hold on. Untitled. You probably can see it here. So at the beginning, I was, this is the part where we are, where I think I will send them this though.
I don't see your document.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Why?
I don't know. I just see
it
says you're viewing your screen. So maybe I'm just viewing your Zoom screen.
Hold on. Let me try it again.
I think I can stop recording at this point because, yeah, this is like our conversation.